Good morning. Today I'd like to talk about one of the theories that we haven't had a chance to cover in class, and that is social exchange theory. Social exchange theory is intriguing because it isn't one that came out of the field of family communication, but it is one that is directly applicable to family comm. And I think it's one that helps explain um, the phenomenon of why we stay in family relationships and in some cases why we leave those relationships. Social exchange theory, in a sense, actually comes out of economics. It's an economic model of understanding relationships. And, well, an economic model is one that would look at the benefits of a relationship in terms of profit. We do the things we do in relationship because we perceive them as profitable. So social exchange theorists work from the main equation that perceived profit, and that's a key term, that perceived profit is the result of the rewards we get from a relationship minus the costs we expend in that relationship. We are all in relationships for profit. This is a theory that throws altruism out the window in a sense, or at the very least, it causes us to redefine altruism in a way that suggests that we do get some reward of even doing good just for the sake of doing good. This theory says that we are into relationships for our self interest. What's in it for me? So let's talk about each part of that equation. There's perceived profit, and as I mentioned, perceived is the key word there. What we perceive as profitable may differ from one person to the next. Absolutely. You might perceive as a major profit of a relationship having a partner who prepares wonderful meals for you each evening. And I might regard as a highly profitable reward having a colleague who is willing to read drafts of papers of mine before I send them out for publication consideration, and someone who lets me know you haven't been clear enough here, or you need to go back and rewrite there, what have you. Perceived profit is unique for each person. It can be extremely high, it can be extremely low. There have been semesters where my partner and I have surveyed undergraduate students to help them get a sense of where their perceived profit levels were. And we've had students say that a potential mate of theirs had to make at least $80,000 a year for that relationship to be profitable. Well, not everyone has that same level. And for some, if that is, then at the risk of using a phrase I hate, it is what it is. What matters is that as long as each person in a relationship perceives that relationship as being profitable, that relationship is likely to remain stable. So again, what do we have? We have perceived profit at the end or beginning, depending on how you phrase the equation. It's the result, the outcome. And it is the result of the interaction of two other factors, rewards and costs. Obviously, rewards are the things we give each other in relationships, the things we get in relationships. So, what is it that we get out of our interactions with others? Some may say that my partner buys me expensive jewelry. My partner does the dishes for me every night. My partner writes me love notes. My partner rubs my feet at the end of a stressful day. There are lots of different rewards out there, but there are four common types that are reported among research subjects who have been surveyed on this. Those four would be cash, goods, services, and sentiments. Obviously, well, some people like money, and some people want to be with other people who have money. I'm not placing a value judgment on that. I'm simply saying that that is one of the major types of rewards that people value in relationships. Other people like goods, things. I want someone to use that money to buy me fancy things so I don't even have to worry about buying them. It shows that they're putting a certain amount of thought not only into how much I think they should spend on me, but on what they should be spending money on for me. Services simply refers to the things that people do for us. It's that person's willingness to, um, gosh, sometimes it's doing the yard work or taking out the trash. I learned early in my marriage that I gained lots of cool points by being the killer of all spiders in Casa Arrington. So when those bugs rear their heads, I get to um, I get to perform a task, provide a service in a way that my wife and daughters find highly rewarding. The last of those four types of rewards, though, sentiments, might actually be the most powerful one because we know in studies of relationship termination that often what drives a relationship to dissolution isn't that that person wasn't receiving enough cash or enough goods or services from her or his partner. It's that they weren't receiving enough sentiments, that they weren't being reminded that they were appreciated for the contributions they made to the relationship. Most often, when relationships fail, it's because of a drop off in those sentiments. Now, rewards are good things, but rewards come with some problematics. There is the notion of reward deprivation, for instance, and that occurs when a person perceives a type of reward. Um, when a person perceives a type of reward that they value and they, well, aren't receiving that reward. What happens when someone values something but doesn't get it? What happens when, gosh, I value having time to write, but I don't get that time because of family obligations? Then what we might find is that the lack of that reward might affect the stability of my relationship. At the other end, there's the notion of reward satiation, uh, which occurs when one person receives a reward so often that the reward starts to lose its value. Um, at the risk of over disclosing, when I was in graduate school, I dated a woman who I learned had a rough day at work every Tuesday. It was her crazy day at work. She had to do more on that day. She had more meetings on that day and she had to work with some people she wasn't crazy about. So one Tuesday, I managed to sneak into her office and leave some flowers on her desk. She loved it. Well, the next Tuesday, I went and did the same thing, and she loved it. If I had continued to do that every Tuesday, eventually we might have achieved reward satiation, where the flowers were nice, but not nearly as prized as they were early in the relationship. So we've talked about rewards, we've talked about some of the problematics that go with rewards. Let's talk about costs. Every every reward is a cost to someone else. And there are different types of costs, things that we expend in relationships. Some costs are actual or inherent. The time we spend with people, the money we spend on people, the energy we devote to people, those are all inherent costs. But they're not the only ones. There are psychological costs. Sometimes giving a reward is stressful. Um, early in our relationship, I was not the biggest fan of musical theater. But I remember watching a couple of shows with my wife because that was something that she valued. So I expended that cost. But the cost wasn't just a cost in terms of time, it was a cost, it was a psychological cost. It was a stressful experience. In one case in particular, for me to sit and watch a musical with her. Now, for what it is worth, over time I've come to appreciate them and have actually even gone on stage myself a couple of times. Um, but we have inherent rewards, we have psychological rewards. We also have what we call rewards foregone. A reward foregone is simply the idea that if I give up a reward in order to give you a reward, I've expended a cost there. If I could be hanging out with my friends and instead of hanging out with my friends or going to a ball game, I decide to take you out to a concert, then I've expended a cost there and the reward that I otherwise would have accepted for myself. Now, all of this formula, this seemingly simple formula, has implications for relationships.